Donald Trump raised tariffs on Chinese goods with a bold promise that America would win and China would lose. He told voters that factories would return, jobs would come back, and China would be forced to change its behavior. But several years later, the outcome looks very different from what was promised. China's trade surplus has reached a record level, and its exports continue to flow around the world. Instead of collapsing, China's global trade network has expanded into new regions. Instead of being isolated, China has become more connected to Africa, Southeast Asia, Europe, and Latin America. While American markets became harder to access, other markets became more open to Chinese goods. The result is that China adjusted, but America pushed itself into a smaller role. The numbers explain this shift very clearly. In 2025, China's exports grew even as shipments to the United States fell sharply because of tariffs. Chinese companies simply redirected their products to countries that were eager for affordable cars, electronics, machines, and industrial parts. Exports to Africa surged, Southeast Asia absorbed more goods, and Europe increased its purchases despite political tensions. Global demand for technology, electric vehicles, and manufacturing equipment supported this shift. While the US tried to slow China down, the rest of the world continued buying from it. Trade did not disappear, it just changed direction. And once trade routes change, they rarely go back to the old path. This shows the first major flaw in Trump's trade war strategy. Tariffs were supposed to pressure China, but they ended up pressuring American companies and consumers instead. Higher import costs were passed on to buyers, raising prices inside the United States. Retaliation from China and other countries hurt American farmers and exporters. Businesses that relied on global supply chains faced uncertainty and instability. Meanwhile, China treated the tariffs as a problem to be solved rather than a threat to be feared. It invested in new partnerships, new shipping routes, and new markets. Adaptation proved more powerful than confrontation. Trump's approach treated trade like a battlefield where one side must win and the other must lose. But trade is not war, and economies are not armies. When the U.S. used tariffs as weapons, it also sent a signal that it could not be trusted as a stable partner. Countries began to worry that any disagreement with Washington could turn into economic punishment. That fear pushed governments and businesses to reduce their dependence on the U.S. system. Slowly and quietly, new trade networks began forming without America at the center. Influence does not disappear in one moment, but it erodes over time. China benefited from this shift not because it is morally better, but because it appeared more predictable. While Washington changed policy with political moods, Beijing offered consistency in trade relations. Countries that wanted stability found it easier to plan with China than with the United States. This does not make China a friend of the world, but it makes it a convenient partner. The tragedy for America is that it created this opening for China through its own behavior. Power does not only come from strength, it comes from reliability. And reliability is exactly what Trump's trade war damaged. The deeper danger of this approach is long-term. When countries learn how to function without the United States, they slowly stop needing it. New financial systems, shipping routes, payment networks, and trade agreements begin to replace old ones. Once those systems are built, it becomes very hard for any country to return to its former position of influence. The world does not collapse when America steps back. It simply reorganizes. That reorganization reduces U.S. leverage in future crises. And without leverage, even the most powerful nation becomes just another player. Trump wanted to make America strong by forcing others into submission, but strength built on pressure does not last. It creates fear, and fear creates distance. China's record trade surplus is not just China's success. It is evidence that the world is learning to move on from American dominance. This shift will shape global politics for decades. It will affect how countries cooperate, compete, and resolve conflicts. And it all began with the idea that trade should be used as a weapon instead of a bridge. That choice may become one of the most costly decisions of our time.